Good morning, Year 8. I hope you're well and having a lovely day. Please can you write the date and the title, Oliver and the Workhouse. For you do now. The picture shows a young boy, Oliver, in a workhouse for orphan children. What is he doing and why do you think he's doing it? Write down anything else you know about the story of Oliver Twist. Pause the video for a couple of minutes to do this now. So for this lesson you'll need a pen, pencil and highlighter, your exercise book and a copy of the Oliver extract. So who is Oliver and what happens to him? Oliver is a 9-year-old orphan and lives in a workhouse for orphans. After asking for more gruel, which was a dare the other boys made him carry out, he is sold to a man called Mr. Sowerberry. He is mistreated by Mr. Sowerberry, and so he runs away to London. In London, he is forced to join a criminal gang of children led by a man called Fagin. Fagin and a boy called the Artful Dodger try to teach Oliver how to steal. Oliver ends up being arrested for stealing a handkerchief from a man called Mr. Brownlow, but during the trial it comes out he was falsely accused. Mr. Brownlow takes Oliver into his own home as he develops a fever during the trial. Unfortunately, Sykes and Nancy lure Oliver back into the gang whilst he is on an errand for Mr. Brownlow. Oliver is forced into crime again, but once more he is taken in by the people he was supposed to rob. Eventually, it comes out that one of the people in the house is related to Oliver. He also comes into an inheritance, and finally, at the end, he is adopted by Mr. Brownlow. Sykes is killed whilst evading the police, and Fagin is hanged. So life in the workhouse. Looking at these pictures, I'd like you to write down a few thoughts on what you think life in a Victorian workhouse would be like. Pause the video for a couple of minutes to do that now. So let's consider life in the workhouse. In 1834, the Poor Law was introduced. It ensured that the poor were housed in workhouses, clothed and fed. Anybody of any age could be sent to the workhouse for lots of different reasons, including no work, minor crimes, and because they were very poor. Children would receive some schooling in the workhouse, and in return they would work for several hours a day. In Oliver Twist, we see a typical form of work, picking oakum. Other forms included bone crushing and corn grinding. Picking oakum was where you had a string and you had to undo the little fibres. That was a really hard task. The combination of the severe workload and poor diet resulted in many inmates dying in the workhouse. The boys would have been fed on watery gruel and would have slept on the floor with nothing but sacks for covering. The room was cold and there was a constant wind. The guardians of the workhouse believed that they were improving the inmates' morality and saving them from decline. There were plaques carrying religious messages such as God is just or God is good, supposedly to provide the boys with moral guidance. Some critics called the workhouses prisons for the poor. The poor themselves hated and feared the workhouses. So the workhouse. I'd like you to read the extract and answer the questions below. Why did the bowls never need washing? Why did they lick their fingers? Underline the adverb, which tells you how they did this. What does it mean? Remember, an adverb is a word that describes a verb. What did one hungry boy threaten to do unless he had another basin of gruel? How did Oliver end up being the one who had to ask for more? What does the master do to Oliver after he asks for more? How much was offered to take Oliver off their hands? And what did the gentleman in the white waistcoat think would happen to Oliver? Pause the video now in order to answer these questions. So let's go through the answers. 1. Because the boys licked them so clean. They didn't have much food in to start with. 2. To eat up every last bit as they were so hungry. They did this assiduously, meaning carefully, because they didn't want to waste any. 3. He threatened to eat the boy next to him. 4. He drew the short straw in the bet to see who would ask the master for more food. 5. He aimed a blow at his head, restrained his arms, and called for an officer. 6. £5. 7. He thought Oliver would end up getting hung. So check your answers. If you didn't get them correct, please do correct them now. So, writing a news report. Imagine you're a journalist and you have heard the shocking news that an orphan has asked for more food. You could be either on Oliver's side and write an investigative type article where you interview Oliver and his friends on life in the workhouse, for instance, hungry homeless boy begs for more, or you could be on the side of the authorities reporting on the greed of the ungrateful orphan boy, for instance, greedy boy gobbles up all the food. So decide what side you want to be on, and then pause the video until the end of the lesson to write your news report. If you've got a great deal of time, maybe you could do both, and make sure you really get into character for whatever side you're on. So pause the video until the end of the lesson to write your news report, potentially 2 if you've got a lot of time left. Right, thank you very much for all your hard work today. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson, and I look forward to speaking to you next time. Goodbye.